So one of the cool things about QGIS is the ability to use geometry generators instead of actually, changing the feature itself. So it's mostly for visual representation instead of altering the feature, and that allows us to have something that will make it okay for visualization purposes. So it's basically a gimmick. My name is Antonio Locandro, and in this video I'll show you how we can use geometry generators. To demonstrate this point, I have this polygon layer line up here, and what I'm going to do is add a geometry generator. First thing is to open the layer styling panel, and I already have this fill outline, and I'll duplicate it. I'll work on this layer on the top, and I'll change it from a simple fill to a geometry generator. First thing that I want to do is to get the nodes, because the geometry by expression that I'm going to be doing is from each node I want to go to the centroid and to have a line. So that's the thing that I want to do. Now for the geometry functions, if we go to QGIS documents and training manual for the latest, and I'm using the long-term release again, if we go to the expression under the geometries, we can check the nodes to points, and this will allow us to get all of the multi-point geometries for that. So this is the one that I will be using here. So for the geometry generator, I already know in this case I'm going to put as a point, and I have the vertices there, but I really want to get the nodes. So if I search here for the nodes and check the nodes to the points, put it at the start, and I want to use true because I don't want the last node. So if we go to the documentation, it tells us that this is an optional argument, by default is false, and set to true to avoid including these duplicate nodes in the output collection, and I have a multi-point. So if I click OK, I got this point thing here. What I want to do now is to draw a line from each of these vertices to the centroid. And to do that, I'll use the following expression. Now in this video, I won't be going into the details on how this expression was built, but I'll do a brief explanation. I'm going to create a variable called nodes. So let's check what this width variable is doing. So the width variable, you add a name, and the name of this variable is going to be nodes. We're going to tell it the value, and in this case the value is going to be nodes to points and the geometry true, the expression that we were using before. And now we're going to use this variable and recreate it, or use it instead in a array that will go from each of the points of the nodes to the center. To do that, the expression is going to be the following. We want to collect all of the geometries to be able to create a multi-string so we can render it. And to collect the geometry is going to get all of the different lines that we're going to be creating from each of the nodes to the centroid by using the following. Array for each, we're going to generate a series. So a series is just a list of 1, 2, and we want to start from 1 and want to get to the number of vertices. So we're going to generate a series from 1 until the number of geometries of the variable nodes. Now remember that we created a variable nodes, which is in single quotes, and to call this variable we're going to use the @nodes here. For each of these nodes, we want to make a line that goes from each of the geometries. So this function geometry n is going to pick up the nodes by using the variable, which we already have defined, and using the element a element or @element, which is going to be from the series that we got. So the element is going to pick 1, 2, 3, 4 until it gets to the end of the nodes, and then the other point is going to be the centroid. And you can see there's a preview here at the bottom. It says geometry is a multi-line string. That's perfect because that is what we want, and we can click OK. Now it may seem that nothing has happened, but we have point here and we actually want a line string, and we already have here the line that we want to use, and that is the geometry generator. So if we add a new feature, let's say we add this feature here, call it, I don't know, ocean 2. Okay, the geometry is just the outline, and then the geometry generator is going to be adding from each of the nodes towards the centroid. Now this is useful for visualization, but what if we want to actually keep the geometry in a separate layer because we're happy with these results, but we want a permanent feature. No problem with that. We're going to copy this expression, and with processing using the toolbox, and in the search bar, we're going to write expression. And there's this function which is geometry by expression, which is very convenient. So we double click on that and we say, okay, we want the polygon layer for sure. We want the output to be a line. That's the reason we're doing this. And for the expression, we click here and we can just paste the expression that we had for the geometry generator in the first place. Click OK, and we can just leave it to the temporary layer to check it out, and then we can save final. Click on run, and now we have a feature here that we can select. So these are actually lines, not just for display purposes, but are actual lines, geometries that we can select. Now, by default, because this is a multi-string, if you select one, it's going to be everything here. So we might want to explode it. So we can explode lines, and we can do this with edit in feature. So I'll just click here and I'll select these features here and select that, and all of the features has been exploded. And now I can just select, and as I select, you'll notice just one of them is selected. If I open the attribute table for this, you'll notice it will retain the value of the original feature just in case we want to connect back to it. So hopefully in this video, you have found out how you can create your geometry from an expression if you have before created some geometry generators just for visualization. See you in the next one.